AAT Birds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need.
Quick, he's going to go. What a give it to Smith, and they stop him again. Go back. He looks, fires for the end zone, intercepted, the 20, the 10, the 5, touchdown, Matt Ware, midfield, he's going to go, Deshaun Jackson. He steps up, he's hit, and falls forward, and he fumbles the football, and the Eagles have it, it's gone, and the Eagles win.
It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AAT Birds Weekly Report. I myself, Johnny Ulecka, is joined as always. No, I'm not actually joined by Chip. Look at that. New person in here. New old person in here. Mike Bauer at Rewind CEO joining me for a fun little. Now, Chip is at an umpiring event up in Cooperstown, New York. So some fun stuff he's doing up there. But he won't be with us tonight. So it's going to be Mike. Yep. Mike has a question. We'll start off with that. But we are going to be breaking down the AAT Birds top 100 Eagles of all time. A lot of comments been getting put out with this, especially on Instagram and everything when I'm posting it. Some pretty negative, not so happy with some of the rankings on where I have some of these players. But again, everyone has their opinions. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got them. So
everyone has their wrong-ass opinions.
Exactly. But no, we'll go over 186, and then we'll talk some of the people who did.
We'll get there because I want to address some of those comments. I get where people are coming from. Look, we're Eagles fans. We're passionate. I get it. But there's a reason these guys are on the list because in a lot of cases, this team would have been successful without them. But my question for you, Johnny, is this. Yeah. The main, and it's not even a concern. I just kind of want to see how it shakes out. What do you think about the cornerback situation going on right now? Everything that I'm hearing, Quinyon Mitchell's looking really good. James Bradbury had like 1 or 2 reps at safety and then got hurt.
Keely Ringo looks pretty good. I heard in Isaiah Rodgers. So you bring up a great point.
It's just we are so different in this regard right now than we were last year. I'm still a little bit concerned about linebacker. I do think linebacker is going to be better this year than last year, at least how he tried this offseason with Devin White, although I wasn't like overly enthusiastic about that pickup still. But I feel like we have a really good problem right now because injuries happen, Slay's getting older. And I could see like there's a possibility where maybe your starting 3 next year is Quinyon Mitchell, Keely Ringo, and Cooper DeJean. We just got to call him Cooper DeJohn, by the way, because you're in Philly. That could be your starting 3 for however long. Starting next year, it's possible, right?
Yeah, and you really look at the cornerback position and the secondary as a whole because when you look at the corners first, Darius Slay, like you mentioned, he's getting older.
He is, yeah.
But you drafted Quinyon Mitchell, you drafted Cooper DeJean. You have a young Isaiah Rodgers who's 26 coming off of, he didn't play last year because he was suspended, but he's looking good. You have Keely Ringo, who is the 4th youngest Eagle on the roster, and he played a whole year last year. So, Eli Ricks showed you a little bit last year, but then when you look at the nickelback position, you sign Tyler Hall, Avonte Maddox comes back. We'll see what you have in there. Remember, CJ Gardner-Johnson can come down and play the nickel position as well.
Yeah. But I actually think they're good at nickel for once. Like I feel much better right now going in.
They addressed the nickel spot, and I know Howie mentioned that. And then the funny thing is you look at a player who was the first outside corner off the bench if one of those guys were to get hurt, and Josh Jobe is all the way on the out. He's
buried.
Terrific special teamer. But what do they do there? I think what you're going to see here is you're going to see one of these guys, and I'm not talking about James Bradbury, one of these other guys potentially moved if everyone stays healthy.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to sneak someone onto the practice squad. Someone's going to get scooped right up with the way the secondary position, cornerback position in the NFL is, everyone wants to have a deep in depth at safety. I think this is one of the positions where the depth is so beneficial for the Eagles because they can do something with that. If a player like Eli Ricks or a player like Josh Jobe or Zach McPherson or someone along the lines of that, are they able to trade and get a draft pick for it and not like they may be able to sneak somebody on the practice squad, but
maybe. But I mean, let's take a look and see who they got. Obviously, and this is based on our lads. The NFL does not have to publish an official depth chart until I believe August at some point. So left cornerback is Slay. Isaiah Rodgers is his backup. I'm going from starting to how they are put on the depth chart. Again, left cornerback, Slay, Isaiah Rodgers, Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe. Right cornerback, Quinyon Mitchell is slotted in as a starter. Then we got James Bradbury. I don't think he's here opening day. Keely Ringo, Zach McPherson still hanging around, and Perry Nickerson, who there's a camp body for you. So
I think he could be a guy you stash on the practice squad. He's a veteran. He's played a couple of seasons. Somebody who's in your system can learn. And he was with Vic last year in Miami.
Okay,
so
that's important. And then at nickel, Avonte Maddox right now is the starting nickel. And look, Avonte Maddox is good. It's injuries. Cooper, Tyler Hall, who I know you had talked about previously, Mario Goodrich, he'll be gone, and Sean Stevens. Looks like he was a UDFA guy. But it's really interesting, and I do want to say as well, this is why I know the NFL wants to go to 18 games and cut the preseason down to 2 games. The preseason is really important. The preseason is where you break down the depth of your team.
Yep.
And one of the most important things, I do a fantasy football podcast. I preach depth all the time. Same goes for the NFL, man. You got to have good depth because we saw last year when Avonte Maddox went down, they were unprepared. When Nakobe Dean went down, they were unprepared. I'm not saying that stuff caused the collapse, but it certainly didn't help at all. This defense looks better already this year at this point.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what Vic can do with these guys. And it's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be
unfortunately,
awesome.
they don't reconvene to practice until the middle of July, so more towards the end of July. So, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a lull here in terms of Eagles news, which
the dead zone,
which brings us to
actually one more thing. We have to do that linebacker episode.
Yeah,
remember we talked about that last year. We just never got a chance to do it. We got to do it, dude. We have to.
Okay. That is something that we can, with the dead period, that is definitely something that could be worked
That's
in
what
the
I'm
next
saying.
couple of weeks. So,
yeah.
I like that idea. So we'll definitely be in on that. But I thought doing a top 100 Eagles of all time, I thought it would be easier than it was. It was really hard. Trying to figure out top 100 Eagles of all time. It's very tough with the team that history that goes all the way back to 1933.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bad years in that, but there were some really good players. So it was very tough to pick 100. We're starting to count down. We're posting 5 each. I did 15 already. So 100 to 86 we have gotten to. Let me pull it up. So let's see. I'm going to share this screen so then we can see what we have here. Now, and then we'll talk about some of the guys who did not make the roster.
Okay.
Did not make the list. So we start with 100 to 96. So 100, we have Ike Reese, linebacker from 98 to 04. 99, Big Hollis Thomas. 98, cornerback Sheldon Brown, which this one, a lot of people got upset with.
They wanted him higher?
Yes, they wanted him
Yeah, look,
higher.
I like Sheldon Brown. Sheldon Brown was just a really solid player.
Yeah.
It's just-
Safety Quentin Michael, number 97.
UDFA. Love this.
People didn't like this one, and why is he ahead of Sheldon Brown? Well, Quentin Michael did make a Pro Bowl. He was a second team All-Pro, I believe, twice. So he was a very solid safety and somebody that Eagles were lucky to have after Dawkins left in those seasons. Plus, also, it says 03 to 10. Now you have to remember his first 4 or 5 seasons, he was strictly just special teams.
Yeah.
And then by I think 06, 07, I think around 07, he started playing a lot more on defense. And, in those 4 seasons, he had pretty good accolades. So that's why he was there. And then 96, Corey Simon. Unfortunately, a short Eagles career after their 04 season. He was unfranchised and then let go. So with those first five, of course, Ike Reese, Hollis Thomas, Sheldon Brown, Quentin Michael, Corey Simon. A lot of, all the players are from basically me as a kid, the youth. Everyone thought that, you're just going with these younger guys, where the older guys, which we'll start to get into the next couple. Now, there's some pushback on some of these. A lot of people thought Ike Reese shouldn't have been in there. I disagree. He's one of the best special teamers I've watched play for the Eagles.
For sure.
He was a Pro Bowler. He did play defense. It wasn't like he just played special teams. He played defense and made plays, interceptions, sacks, started, in 2003, Carlos Emmons was hurt. He had to start, and he made some plays on defense in the playoffs. So, there's a lot that comes into play when you look at that. Hollis Thomas, he may not have had the numbers, but he was an absolute run-stuffing defensive tackle, could do it all. And they missed his presence in the NFC Championship games. Unfortunately, he was only playing in one of those 4 that the Eagles played in from 01 to 04. And, of course, it's the one that they won. So he was hurt in every other one. So, his impact was big in the middle of that defense. But a lot of people wanted Sheldon Brown higher.
I could see it both ways. And, the thing about Ike Reese, too, we have to remember Ike Reese wanted to stay in Philadelphia. He was told by the Falcons, I remember hearing him talk about this on the radio, he was told by the Falcons that he was going to be given an opportunity to start. But with the Falcons for 2 years, he never started a game for them, so they lied. Ike Reese started 5 games in his career, but just such a good special teamer, like you said.
No, he was – listen, Ike Reese, he may be a friend of the show. He shares our stuff like that. But when you look at the impact he made on the field, the special teams, if you just go and watch the Eagles games from 99 until 04 and watch the special teams plays, I bet you're going to see Ike Reese involved in more than half of those.
I mean, look, he had a 9-year career as predominantly a reserve linebacker. Again, 5 career starts and a special teams player. So this shows special teams is important, especially now with kickoffs coming back. Special teams is important.
Big time important.
Just a great, and seems like a cool dude too. Like, I've never talked to him, but he seems pretty cool.
Which now brings us to 95 to 91. 95. Guard / tackle Todd Herremans.
I love Todd Herremans. Late round pick, just did everything and did it all well too, by the way.
Absolutely. He was a jack of all trades. Look at the longevity for a player out of Saginaw Valley State.
He was a 6th-round pick?
Yeah. 94, Andy Harmon. Super underrated, the type of impact. And you look at his time, 91 and 97. Well, 97 and 96, he was hurt. He played, I think, maybe a total of, I think it was like 2 or 3 games in those 2 years. He had 39, I think he had 39 and a half sacks. Double-digit sacks twice.
So you are right. Did have 39 and a half sacks. And then, 11 sacks in 95, 11 in 93. And between 96 and 97, he played a total of 7 games.
7, okay.
With a total of 11 tackles. So, he had some injuries going on there.
And it's what, when you think of Andy Harmon, the impact he had, the pass rushing ability he had as a defensive tackle. Just imagine if Jerome Brown never passed away and you plug a young Andy Harmon next to a Jerome Brown who were both next to Clyde Simmons and Reggie White. That defensive line would have been unblockable when you look at all of those guys. And, it's just absolutely underrated player in my opinion because people don't think of him. But you look at his numbers and what he did as a defensive tackle. Really shows you what kind of player he was. Number 93, John Bunting. One of those linebackers for the 1980 Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
He played a lot of years with the Eagles. Wasn't like an all-pro Pro Bowler, but he was rarely hurt. Played a ton of games, made a ton of tackles for that defense. And funny thing is, someone commented and said, I didn't know Ben Stiller played for the Eagles.
Yeah, I could see the resemblance. He also played his entire career with the Eagles, too. Yeah,
he did.
Which, it's something to factor in when Johnny's putting this list together.
The longevity aspect. Quarterback Roynell Young, another one, 1980 to 88. A lot of people asked, like I mentioned last time, the Sheldon Brown aspect. But you look at Roynell Young's career, more interceptions. He was a Pro Bowler. I believe he made an all-rookie team, the Pro Football Writers Association all-rookie team. So you have that in there. He was an NFC champion as well. Of course, the Eagles made Super Bowl in 1980, his rookie year. But he was a very solid cornerback starter for the Eagles for almost a decade.
Also played his entire career with the Eagles. And I will say this in Sheldon Brown's defense, probably one of the best hitting and pure tackle corners of his time.
You think of Sheldon Brown, you think of the hit on Reggie Bush.
Sheldon Brown, Reggie Bush.
But if you go back to 2002, there was a game against the Dallas Cowboys in Philadelphia where he made, I believe, 2 massive hits.
Also, if you want to see a good hit that people don't talk about, Jerome McDougal on Eli Manning, and in what I believe was Eli Manning's first career start or snaps, he welcomed him to the NFL quite a few.
I remember that one. That's like the only play Jerome McDougal had for the Eagles.
He had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I know.
That, just injuries and then getting shot in Miami.
Yeah. Yeah, wasn't so great of a career. And no, he is not on the list.
No. Neither is Kurt Coleman, I'm assuming.
No. He is not as well.
Although Kurt Coleman, for a 7th-round draft pick, played well above what he should have.
No doubt. So did Jordan Poyer.
Yeah.
But not with the Eagles.
Yes.
91, guard Jermaine Mayberry.
I love this.
He made 1 Pro Bowl, but he played a lot of games with the Eagles. He was always there starting. Towards the end of his career, he was hurt a little bit, but, he was always there. He set up the iMobile, and that's another thing I didn't put in there. If you see, there was a lot of that back when he was younger about glasses and stuff for youth and all that. So, but Jermaine Mayberry he's a stalwart. He started out, I know they drafted him at a Texas A&M Kingsville. He was, I think his first season, I believe he started at left tackle.
So he was a tackle for his first 2 seasons. He was a guard in 98, and then Andy Reid moved him back to guard in 2000, and that's where his career really took off. Jermaine Mayberry, an extremely underrated player. This could be Tyler Steen before he was Tyler Steen. Let's not forget, Tyler Steen was a tackle at Texas. He appears to be our starting right guard for this season. I think he should be. Johnny, you and I talked about it, how there were some people thinking that he could get replaced, but I think it was his job to lose personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is his job to lose. It's going to be given to him for him to either keep it or surrender it away. We'll see what he does.
I think he was was Jermaine Mayberry a second team All Pro in 2002, I believe, as well.
I believe he was.
Okay, cool.
Which now brings us to the last 5 and some controversy to some of these, maybe the first 2. Otherwise, the rest I think people were okay with. But start off with number 90, Carson Wentz.
Look, they don't win the Super Bowl without Carson Wentz. And in 2017, he had one of the best stretches a quarterback has ever played. That's just not debatable. I'm sorry.
And listen, his last season was horrendous, terrible. I get that. I understand.
Not completely his fault, to be fair.
No, it's not completely his fault, but I think there was a lot more done in terms of the injuries he had after the ACL and the back injury, then the concussion. Then it just piled up on him, and unfortunately, I think it was his time to go. It sucks, but you can't not put him on the list because he holds records, completions in a season, passing yards in a season, touchdowns in a season, was an MVP candidate, would have been the MVP if Tom Brady, if he never got hurt, he would have got the MVP over Tom Brady. And he is a top 100 Eagle of all time. Does he eventually get pushed off the list from better players? Yeah, you could see that down the road. But as of right now, you can't not put him on the list. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of hate for him. I get it. Okay. But you have to be a little bit more, open your eyes to kind of what you saw from him as a player. It's not like he's a bad person and a terrible human being and he did all this bad stuff. It's not like that. Maybe he wasn't the best of teammate. Maybe it was too much of a me attitude. Okay. There's plenty of guys on this list that probably had that.
I'm sure T.O.'s on there somewhere, the ultimate me guy. You know what I mean?
So he is on the list, but like I said, you can't not put him on the list.
Yeah.
89, Shawn Andrews.
Man, Shawn Andrews, what could have been? It just never put it together, if I remember correctly.
The injuries and then the mental
health stuff, and then they brought his brother Stacy in, and I believe – if memory serves me correctly,
for a player who wasn't very good,
and but Stacey Andrews had a pretty decent career.
He played with Cincinnati.
Yeah, 2004 to 2011, Cincinnati, 1 year in Philadelphia. Although, if I remember correctly, didn't they sign him to a multi-year deal?
Yeah, I thought it was 6 years, $49 million or something, or 7 years, $49 million.
So he only played in 10 games. He only started 2.
Yeah.
And then he went to Seattle and the Giants to round out his career. But really was mostly just a backup for his career. 94 career games, 49 career starts. I could find out what his contract was if you want.
You could do that looking up. I'm just going to talk like Shawn Andrews. And he was drafted out of Arkansas. Huge player. Originally, he was drafted as a tackle, but Eagles moved him to guard right away. He only played 1 game, and he was hurt. He got played in 1 game, and he was hurt in the 2004 season. So, but he was a first-team All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler. The big thing with him is he was part of the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. Yeah. So, for a player now that team came out in 2007. So he had made the Pro Bowl that year before, and I believe he was an All-Pro that year. Or if not, it was 07. So he was having 2 back-to-back really great seasons. He had a good season in 05. He was a young player, but they saw the elite capability of him, and he made the Eagles' 75th anniversary team as a player who had only been in the league his 4th season. So I think that has to have some type of standing because the Eagles had a decent amount of guards throughout their history that you had this player who was only in his 4th season make the Eagles 75th anniversary team. So definitely is something to put into play when you're ranking that. That's why I had to put him on the list, is because of that, along with the other accolades that he did have. 88, Frankie Lemaster.
Yeah.
Again, another staple linebacker from those 1980s Eagles team. Again, played a ton of games with them.
And let's not forget, look at the years he played. By the way, those are some of my favorite uniforms right there. But 74 to 83, this man lost a lot of football games. There was not a ton of winning before Dick Vermeil got there. And even when he first got there, he had to rebuild the team. So really, until like 1977, 78-ish, they started to turn things around. The Eagles were bad. If you're under the age of like 50, you are really lucky to be an Eagles fan, because my dad and my uncle tell me all the time about like parts of the 60s and the 70s there was like a 2-decade span almost where it was just bad. Just bad.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad. Number 87, Bobby Taylor. Bobby T.
Underrated. Very underrated cornerback.
Very underrated corner. I absolutely agree with you with that. Drafted.
He's on the player safety committee now, right?
What?
He's on the player safety committee now, right?
I think he has to do something with the NFL. He's doing something with the NFL. I don't know exactly what. But he was drafted in 95 out of Notre Dame for Michael Irvin.
It's true.
He was a super long corner for the Eagles, wanted someone to be able to contain Michael Irvin. And
all they needed was the turf at the vet to contain Michael Irvin. They were fine.
Yeah, that is true. It is very true. But no, Bobby Taylor was super reliable corner. Made plays. I believe he did make a Pro Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
Remember this? Jerome Willis to Bobby Taylor.
Yeah.
Remember that? The lateral play?
Yeah, but it was to Troy Vincent.
Oh, why did I think it was Bobby Taylor? Well, never mind. Don't worry about it.
No, that was William Thomas, they said. Pat Summerall does that play. If you ever listen to that play. So Pat Summerall.
I'm old. I can't remember everything. I'm all out of sorts.
But it was funny because during that play, Pat Summerall is talking and saying William Thomas. And William Thomas isn't even in the play. He's saying the totally wrong name. So it's like you're watching it. It's just funny how. But listen, Summerall was a treasure. Him and Madden were like, it was such a great treasure.
And Bobby Taylor spent almost his entire career with the Eagles in 2004. Oh, that sucks too, because if he would have stayed one more year, he would have been able to participate in the Super Bowl.
Same with Troy Vincent.
Seattle.
Troy Vincent only played until 2003, and then he went to the Bills.
Where is Tim Houck on this list, by the way?
He's not on the list.
Oh,
we can get to him when we talk about this, the best of the rest.
That's a bummer.
And then 86, Byron Evans.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, career cut short because of an injury. But I feel he was a little overshadowed from Seth Joyner when you look at the linebackers from those late 80s, early 90s Eagles. But B&E was always all around the ball, tons of tackles. It wasn't as recognized as some of the linebackers in the NFL, but if you watch the Eagles defenses during those years, he was always there. Very good. It was a very good linebacking core when you look at the early 90s with William Thomas, Seth Joyner, Byron Evans. But Byron Evans definitely deserves to be on the list because of the type of play he had with the Eagles. So there's 100 to 86, and we're going to keep going through every 5. Probably have another 5 tomorrow. If not tomorrow, Friday. And then the weekend do another 5. So the list will keep, dwindling down. But it's a very hard list to make, but it's a fun list to make because you're looking through the history of the Eagles and you're putting together the best 100 players during their team history. So it's very tough. And, some of the snubs, if you want to call it snubs, that weren't on there, guys like Alshon Jeffrey didn't make it. Some of the linebackers in D'Amico Ryans, Hassan Reddick, Michael Kendricks, Jordan Hicks. Unfortunately, those guys didn't make the list. Michael Vick, he's not on there. So it was tough because there's so many players that you can put on there, but they just you don't have 120, 150 spots, because if you make the top 150 Eagles of all time, yeah, those guys are all on there. It's a lot easier. But when you dwindle it down to 100, it's tough when you got to pick and choose on the players that you want to add there. Like a player like Hassan Reddick, he had two good seasons, over double-digit sacks. They went to a Super Bowl with him. He was a Pro Bowler, but like maybe the end of last year kind of had a little bit of an effect because he was, I don't know if he was shut out, but he didn't do much towards the later half of the season. Maybe people will get upset when they see a player who only played 2 years, a year and a half in TO, but again, he was dominant. When you have as many games as touchdowns scored, I think that's you got to take into effect that. And a player like AJ Brown's played the same amount of time as Hassan Reddick. Now he's going to play more this year, but he also broke Eagles records. So I think that also comes into play. So that's also a precursor, or something I want to, put in play here is when you take a look at why I'm making this list. Yeah, longevity holds some weight, breaking records, stats, Pro Bowls, All Pros, certain awards you won, and Super Bowl champion, NFC champion, that kind of stuff does matter in the long line of things and what I considered.
I do want to say, if people say Alshon should be on the list, Alshon Jeffrey, 4 years in Philadelphia, his last season, 6 catches, 115 yards, and 1 touchdown. 4 years in Philadelphia, right? 171 receptions, 2,237 yards, and 20 touchdowns. So he was fairly productive. A.J. Brown in 2 seasons in Philadelphia, 194 receptions, 2,952 yards, and 18 touchdowns. Alshon Jeffrey was one of the ugliest runners I've ever seen. The way he ran just looked so unnatural. He had a good ability to he is what we wanted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to be, essentially. But he wasn't the same after he tore his rotator cuff, even though he had better numbers yardage-wise in 2018 than he did in 2017. But then after that, 19 and 20, the wheels just really fell off for him. He hasn't been in the NFL since. I don't know if he ever even had a workout with the team after that. So yeah, thanks for the Super Bowl, Alshon. One of the best Super Bowl interviews of all time, though.
Yes. Listen, I wish I was ecstatic when they signed him, because I thought, hell, the Eagles have their, their receiver now. They're pairing him. They're getting it, but the injuries just, unfortunately, was just too much.
And about Michael Vick too, he did play, I think, some of his best football as an Eagle when he finally started watching film and doing all that stuff. Never started more than 13 games in a season. His best record was in 2010. He was 8-3 as a starter. But as a starter, he was 20-20 in Philadelphia. It's like he was a 500 quarterback.
Yeah.
That's what he was.
Listen, people will say, well, Carson was 35, 32, and 1. But
yeah,
remember, I'm bringing also records and stuff that he put in, and he was an MVP candidate. Yes, Vic had a great 2010 season. But unfortunately.
Yeah, and then the next year, he was 7-6, 3,303 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. So, it's.
If he would have played another season or two with the Eagles, or he wasn't hurt in some of the seasons that he played, then yeah, he probably would be on the list. If he played another season or two and got his numbers up a little bit more, I probably would have put him in there.
Do you remember in 2013, the season opener against Washington? We're like, this is it. Everyone's like, he's the perfect quarterback for Chip Kelly's system. He played in 7 games and was 2-4.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, and the offense was humming that. We had Deshaun Jackson, we had LaShawn McCoy, we had Michael Vick. We had Brent Selleck. So Zach Ertz was there as well. He was a rookie at that year. But still, it's just one of those things where I think the thought of Michael Vick, the Eagles quarterback, was better than the actual practice of Michael Vick, the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback. That makes sense.
Like I said, it's a fun list to make, and I enjoy it. So it gives us a little bit of some content to talk about with this dead period right now. So, if the Eagles aren't making any news now, I'm not going to talk about the fabricated news that, radio stations want to bring up about the Eagles and about the coach and the quarterback and everything like that, because they have nothing else to talk about, even though
is there something going on right now that I'm missing because I don't listen to talk radio?
No, it just had to do with the question with Jalen when they asked about Nick Sirianni, and he paused a couple times and really didn't answer it, and didn't seem like, is Nick and Jalen on the same page? Do they like each other? That kind of stuff. So,
Jalen Hurts doesn't like answering stupid freaking questions either. And Jalen Hurts is not a guy that's a very open guy. He's a very reserved individual, and I respect that because I get it. I don't think he wants to talk to the press. I think he wants to go in, be with his teammates, and do what he needs to do. That's the type of guy that I think Jalen Hurts is, to be just completely honest with you. I'm
just ready for the season, to be honest with you.
I'm ready for vacation. I'm ready for. I need one.
That does come for me too in beginning of August. So, which is right, nice training camps. So it always falls around training camp and preseason. So you're always at the beach and you're getting all the news and stuff. So for me, it's almost like that's like a yearly thing. Is you're enjoying your vacation, you're enjoying the lasting of summer. And because usually around my birthday too, so you're enjoying all that, plus getting all the Eagles news and what's going on. And because I remember the year before we wrap it up here, 2021, remember when Jalen Reagor made that phenomenal catch in the joint practice with the Patriots, and everyone thought, oh, he's gonna come out this year, he's gonna look great, well, that didn't happen. But it's always fun to think about. That's what these practices and all this stuff is, because it's fun for conversation. It's fun for us to predict these things that may not happen. So
true.
So with that, thank you, Mike, for joining me. Definitely going to get you on. We have to have our linebacker episode of the All About the Birds Eagles linebacker history that some may not want to relive. So
you're getting it anyway.
But that'll be a fun episode. So, but with that, as we always say, go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds.
Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, a.k.a. Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.